There
Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I am here to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I am here to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Peace fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. God fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. God fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. All healing energy flows through me now. Harmony, balance, vitality, that glorious wisdom that creates and sustains health is mine. I live in divine well-being now and always. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I return to the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. All of the amazing warmth and friendship and love and connection that people have given Susan and I today, that really was amazing. We're staying in a gorgeous place, and Celia took us around and showed us where all the cool shopping spots were. Yeah. So really, thank you so much for serving us in that way. I'm Reverend Shelley Hanson, and I'm going to ask this question: why should we grow?
because we die otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. If you stay where you are, that's where you stay.
That
Yeah.
was another thing. I was told this, and it took me a few minutes to have it sink in, but I was told that there's only one constant in the universe.
Change.
Right.
Yeah, I heard that one too, and I believe it. But one of the things when I looked at this, I said, why is this a difficult question? Because when I was asking that, why should we grow, one of the things that touched me was that it was hard to answer. There's that answer, but then, it's like, why should I grow? And so I looked at that, and
when we're asking that why question, we're speaking to that part of our brain that doesn't have language. That part of our brain that is the seat of our emotions. And that's the place where we feel things deeply. And so when we ask questions like this, that's what happens. And so this question is something that is going to take more than a Sunday morning 20-minute talk to answer. I'm specifically thinking of an instance, and I bet, well, we have Abby in here, don't we? Abby's one of our kids.
Yeah.
She is. Has Abby ever done this, or have you guys ever had kids who get stuck on why? You know? Yeah, it's like why? Well, because da-da-da-da-da. Well, why? Because da-da-da-da-da. I remember my little sister with my mom, and my mom was so patient, and she was just so, so patient. And then finally she just got to the point, and she said, "Because I can tell." Anybody ever done that? Yeah. So we need to be patient with ourselves as we look forward into this particular question. I know when we look for a why personally, that's a hard thing to do. But there's an author, Simon Sinek, writes a book called Start With Why, and he has a process that I thought is pretty cool. He recommends that you talk to the people who love you and ask them why they're your friends. Now, the first thing most of them are going to do is, well, that's a silly question. Why are you asking me that? But persist. Say, yeah, well, what is it about me that makes you want to be my friend? And eventually what's going to happen is they're going to start saying things like, well, you're trustworthy. You're always there for me. I just really like you. Hang in there with them. Hang in there with them. And then what's going to start happening is they're going to start describing how you are in their lives. They'll start describing their lives and the value that you add. At some point when they talk to you, you'll get goosebumps, maybe some tears, like I did this morning. That, friends, is your why. That's the why that if you continue that and do it consistently, you'll fulfill your purpose on the planet. So we're looking now at why should we grow as a spiritual community. That's going to mean different things for all of us. And we need to come together, we need to discuss, and we need to discern for ourselves as a community what that means. And then go do it. So I'm going to invite then us to look at our founders, Charles and Myrtle. Those folks had a why. They had a big why. We were talking about earlier this morning, wisdom, understanding, love, life, and an abundant supply of all things necessary to meet every want without our ever making any of those things the object of our existence. Powerful, powerful covenant. Powerful covenant. And they started simply with a prayer group. They started a group which was intended to support people who had other faith communities with just learning a little more about how to heal themselves. And then over time, they said, okay, we're going to do education, publishing, and prayer. And today we do those same things. We have Unity Institute, the Daily Word Magazine, Unity Magazine, and Silent Unity. So 125 years later, friends, we are doing that work. And that's the gift that we're carrying forward as a spiritual community. One of the things I remember about the first time I came to Unity, I sat kind of in the middle, and as the speaker was talking, I started to cry. I did that every Sunday for 6 weeks. Wow. Anybody else do that? Linda, you do? So that why is still alive. Still a powerful part of the message that we bring to the world. And as a movement, unity has its why, and we will discern our why, and then we'll put our plans together, and it'll happen almost like breathing. Because we have what people want. They want to hear about their goodness and their power. Now, my personal why is I believe in having a world that works for everyone, with no one and nothing left out. And I started getting this idea back when I was in my 20s. I did something called the S training. I think they call it the forum now.
Yeah.
And, you know, that changed my life. That was the very, very first time that I heard that what I was thinking created my life. See, up till that time, I thought it happened to me, and I just kind of had to put up with it. But there I learned that I could make a difference, and I could change that. And it was a life-changing experience for me. I served in the military at the time. And one of the things I decided as a result of learning this new idea was that I was going to work myself out of a job. That there wasn't going to be a need for military on the planet anymore.
Oh, amen.
Well, I retired from the service in 1989. And I started the S training in 1976, July 1976. And in 1989, I retired from the Navy. November 9th, 1989, some of you may remember this. My birthday. Ah, okay. That division between East and West Berlin was abolished. They called it the Berlin Wall. Now, I'm not going to take credit for this. But I do believe that my change in thinking and my change in behavior and attitude as a person of the military, a citizen of the United States, and a consciousness on the planet did contribute to the end of the Cold War and the fall of that wall. I think you did too. If you are thinking the positive message of unity, of religious science, of the Course in Miracles, all those things, I believe, contributed. Now, I first heard the message of unity through a Navy chaplain in 1986, Don Dendell. And I had been going to church, but he was my diving buddy, and he was a chaplain. And he said, you gotta come. I mean, what are people gonna think? And I remember sitting there, his message was so powerful that I had to know more. And so I started attending regularly. And when I transferred back to the United States, I transferred to Walnut Creek, and he said, go to Unity. So I went to Unity Church in Walnut Creek. And I've been affiliated with Unity ever since. So this idea that a world can work for everyone with no one and nothing left out is why I'm here today and why I am applying for the position of your minister. Now I brought my roommate with me, Susan, and because she and I have a ministry called Two Wise Ladies with Cats. And she's a licensed Unity teacher. And together we share the Unity message with the world. We share the whole idea of emerging church, how to build churches with new energy. And so what I'd like Susan to do is to come up and talk with us for just a few minutes. Shelley asked me to tell you a little bit about me. Shelley asked me to tell you a little bit about me and what I do, because if you get her, you get me too. We were roommates at seminary at Unity Village together and have formed a partnership, business partnership and friendship, and gradually become a family with our 4 cats. Yeah, and she said I'm a licensed Unity teacher and have been for a number of years. I graduated in 1992 from Unity Village. I started seminary and decided that since I'm already ordained in another faith, I didn't need another ordination. And had some health challenges and retired, and I've been kind of helping Shelley. And we decided since we're so different, we make such a really good team. We are very, very different. She's very organized, and I'm definitely not. But between the two of us, we got the bases covered. So a little bit about me. I am basically a resource person. My background, I'm a retired college professor in mathematics of all things. I've been accused of being a walking annotated bibliography. I'm very, very interested in math and science and the relationship of math and science to religion. I don't see the difference. I have a very strong background in philosophy, which covers all of the bases. I'm an academic nerd, an egghead, and all that kind of stuff that Brian, who's here today, teases me that I talk and say big words and it takes him a few minutes to catch up to what I'm saying. So I tell him, just say, whoa, hold it, what did you mean by that word? So we stop. I try and work on the language a little bit. So I figure if I could talk math, maybe translate that into English, we could work on some of these other things. Some of my big interests are in the big questions of philosophy, particularly cosmology, which is about where the universe comes from, where we come from, consciousness, and these kinds of things. I'm also very interested in what's going on in current theology, and I'm seeing so much of what we call the unity message. It's cropping up in other venues. Yes. Not just in other churches and other theologies, but in everyday life, in everyday practice. And I'm seeing so much coming up, even in the skeptics and the atheists, some of these ideas coming up. Some of the research coming out of Harvard Business and Harvard Medical School in positive psychology, where they're showing how academically, how this stuff works and how it can be put into practice. So the works by Sean Acor and people. It's just been fantastic. And bringing it together, it's the kind of self-help stuff that you see once in a while. And yet they're bringing it together and making it accessible. And it's not just a one-shot, these are the 3 steps to happiness. Well, they say, no, there's not just 3 steps, there's more to it than that, but here's some things you can use, some tools. So working with that, I've been doing a lot of that lately, and it's just been fascinating, some of the things that are going on. Some of the different ways that are happening in the way church is done and the way we relate to God, the spread of what's called the emergent Christianity. And it's not just what happens on Sunday morning. It's not just the difference people using rock and roll music instead of the old hymn. Mm-hmm. It's just an entirely different way of doing church. And it's things that don't necessarily happen on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. And I was talking yesterday with Lisa a little bit about some of these things that she's doing in terms of activities that are a great part of ministry. They're a big, big part of what goes on. Not only in the activities for the church family, but in terms of outreach and demonstrating what the unity message is all about. Mm-hmm. So these different ways of doing church have been fascinating to me. Some of the things that have been going on in England, some of the new theologies going on, the emergence movement. It Shelley was talking about earlier with the book group, this 500-year cycle, and the Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were right at the beginning of what's called the peri-emergence, where the beginnings of these ideas were starting to take root, and we're seeing them begin to blossom now. And to have this unity and seeing these ideas spread has just been fantastic and absolutely marvelous. I'm very much interested in what's called the unchurched, or the de-churched, or the largest growing demographic in terms of religious affiliation are the nuns. The N-O-N-E-S. People are walking away from church because they haven't heard what we have to say.
That's right.
So many of their questions, so many of the objections of the atheists and the skeptics, so much of what's going on, oh, God does this and God does that, and I don't like this and I don't like that, and why does God allow this to happen? Unity has at least the quest for the answers, if not the answers. I mean, many times the answers, but a different way of relating to God, and to be able to grow and spread that message is just very, very exciting. Another area I'm interested in is reclaiming the language. So much of the language is God, Bible, Jesus. These types of Christian terminology have been, in my estimation at least, as Shelley would say, my humble and deadly accurate input. Never mind.
You would, huh? Humble and deadly accurate opinion.
Humble and deadly accurate opinion. But to reclaim some of the language that has been used, so many times you say Jesus and people hear Jesus. And when it's like saved and salvation, when you take a look at the root meaning of what some of the scholarly works going on, of Marcus Borg and some of these other people, and you take a look at, let's take this language back because it's very, very meaningful. The resurrection, the crucifixion, all these things that Charles Fillmore began to speak of, metaphorically, instead of literally, makes so much more sense and makes it so much more meaningful, and yet also reclaiming the portions of the Bible. I mean, there's this marvelous story of the relationship of God and man, and how man has learned to relate to God, and the opinion of not opinion, but God's view of man's view of what God is and how man relates to God. I'm using man. I'm an old anthropologist. One of my college degrees is in anthropology. My professor used to say it was the study of man embracing woman, and we will leave it there. When I say Another area I've been particularly interested in is youth ed. I started out really in unity in youth ed indirectly. My mother's a doctorate of education and went back to Unity Village to work on curriculum. And I worked on a research project with her developing curriculum for the youth at Unity. So this was back in the 80s, so I've been involved with youth ed for 100 years and plus. Another area I'm particularly interested in, prayer and meditation, particularly mindfulness meditation. It's very, very powerful. And there are some of the work of Young Minga, Rinpoche, and some of these people in that mindfulness meditation. Yes, you know him? Yeah. He's a delightful young man. He's a monk in his 30s and his meditation master. Just an absolute, some of the people coming out in terms of current theology, and it's just amazing. And you see the unity message in the scientists, like even going back to Richard Feynman and the physicists. Yes, ma'am, just point the time. Okay, we'll talk some more if you want, because I've got a lot of interest in, and I am an annotated bibliography, so I'll put the chapter and verse and give the author and ISBN numbers if you need them. She's a blessing to me. Yes, I can see. Yeah. Yeah, I remember for the first 15 minutes, well, it was about 30 minutes, she offered me $300 to leave. We've been roommates for about 7 years now. So, since you're considering that I'm going to be your minister, and you probably should just hire students. But we make a good team, and since you're thinking about hiring me as a minister, I wanted to talk a little bit, because I believe that trust is a big part of relationships. And I think that's part of what we need to develop amongst each other. Me with you, and you with me, and us. And I think that means that that we need to be authentic. And I'm one of those people who believes in walking or talk. I do practice what I preach, and I try to say things as simply and succinctly as I can. I'm a doer. I'm an open person, and so I see that, and I see that as something that we'll be working with and developing amongst us, having that group together. There's some elements that I think that are important. I think being consistent is important in trust. Being authentic is important in trust. And I think part of authenticity is just being transparent, being open, fallible, as you've seen this morning, and just available. I have very good self-care, and I think that's a big piece of what your minister needs to have. I take really good care of myself. I have nice, strong boundaries. I have a good exercise program. I don't overcommit. And I do believe that we all need to give from a full cup. And since I practice that, I'm going to ask you to do that same thing. But we have lots of work ahead. And so we'll find some ways to do that that will serve us all. I have a life outside of church. I'm a spiritual seeker. I believe in growing and evolving my own self, but also as part of the consciousness of the planet. I think that's important. I'm active in my spiritual community, but I'm also active in the outside community. I like to get involved in groups like Habitat for Humanity and Adult Literacy. Some of my interests, Susan talked about them, the emerging church ideas, the new ways to package church for people, how they can be, how we can use what's already there to reach people and to create a place where they want to come and hear what we have to say. I'm also working on putting together an enrichment program for chaplains of all faiths. I think that that's a gift that we can offer is we have silent unity and we have a great prayer consciousness. I like to line dance. Yeah. Get it, Susie. I like water aerobics, I like cooking, and I like light mysteries. I have a wonderful Hannah Swenson cookbook that we've got to try. It's really, really good. Pardon? I haven't read it. She does. She's really, really good. Ooh. Well, friends, it's my intention to, as your spiritual leader, live openly, honestly, and deeply. I'll love the people entrusted in my care. I'll do the best job I can. And I'll listen to you and to the people in the community. And in turn, what I want from you is to be nurtured, to be challenged, and to be collaborated with in ministry. Thank you.